Bless the Lord, O my soul, blessed art thou, Lord.
Now in this video, the clips will basically about reminding us to not live in fear as it is useless, while the other clip will be on the importance of being obedient to the Pope by quoting what God the Father said to St. Catherine of Siena.
Mystics, remember, are called to a special vocation in the Church, whereby, uniting themselves to the person of Jesus, they necessarily unite themselves to the members of his body. So when Jesus is suffering on account of the members of his body, the mystics suffer more than we do. This is their special vocation in life, to participate intimately in all that which Jesus experiences today.
So let's start with the one on the reminder for us to not live in fear, especially in these end times. Listen to this.
I will share with you and ask you after I read it where it comes from. Which mystic did Jesus say this quote to about fear? She writes, "Today, Jesus entered my room wearing a bright robe and girded with a golden belt, his whole figure resplendent with great majesty. He said, 'My daughter, why are you giving in to thoughts of fear?' I answered, 'O Lord, you know why.' And he said, 'Why? This work frightens me. You know that I am incapable of carrying it out.' And he said, 'Why? You see very well that I am not in good health, and I have no education, that I have no money, that I am an abyss of misery, that I fear contact with people. Jesus, I desire only you. You can release me from this.' And the Lord said to me, 'My daughter, what you have said is true. You are very miserable, and it pleased me to carry out this work of mercy precisely through you, who are nothing but misery itself. Do not fear. I will not leave you alone. Do whatever you can in this matter. I will accomplish everything that is lacking in you. You know what is within your power to do. Do that." Unquote. Well, if you didn't figure it out, this quote comes from St. Faustina Kowalska. It's entry 881 in her Diary of Divine Mercy, and it reinforces the importance of trust and fearlessness. God also tells Faustina in entry 292, in quotes, "When a soul loves God sincerely, it ought not fear anything in the spiritual life. Let it subject itself to the action of grace, and let it not impose any restraints on itself in communing with the Lord." So these are beautiful reminders to us in these end times. End times does not mean end of the world. That's still far off. We still have this era of peace, long period of peace awaiting mankind. But it has to go through the birth pangs, which we are experiencing, which is reported, I believe, in Revelation chapter 14, where Mary was found with child in labor, and the serpent tried to spew out a torrent to consume her and her child, but she fled to the desert for 3.5 years, where she was kept safe. I believe we are living in these times, but they will be short, and succeeded by a glorious epoch of universal Christianity, peace, where the meek will inherit the earth, where God's will reign on earth as in heaven, where Jesus in the Eucharist will be adored by all the earth's inhabitants, and the Immaculate Heart of Mary will replace the flag of the Red Square.
And the following clip, as I said earlier, what God the Father said to St. Catherine of Siena. This is very important, so please listen to this one carefully.
Even if the Pope was the worst human being on the planet. Why? Within the Pope, not the person only, but above all, the office that God entrusted to him. Many saints, I can name Francis of Assisi and others, would encourage their followers, their disciples, or you may call them devotees, right? Would encourage them never ever to break from the Pope, no matter what kind of person he is. I mean, the Church has seen many bad popes, the Borgia popes, and so on and so forth, and we've heard all crazy stories, embellished in part as well. But the point is this: the saints looked beyond the person to the office, and they respected that. Now, the writings of Catherine of Siena speak very eloquently about the Pope. There is a letter, and it is a beautiful letter, composed by Catherine of Siena to the Christians and the priests. She was a very active lay third-order Dominican woman, celibate, virgin, who championed the cause of the Pope coming back from Avignon, France, to Rome. She knew that his place in Rome was preordained by God, for it stemmed from Jesus' exhortation to Peter to go back to Rome, where he was to not only shed his blood, but sow the seeds for the beginning of the church by the shedding of his blood. All right. Now, Catherine of Siena, and this is just coming to mind on the spur, spoke very directly, forcefully, about the importance of remaining united with the Pope. So I would like to share with you this particular excerpt that comes from her dialogue. The Italian translation of the English title for the book she wrote was called The Dialogue. In Italian, all she entitled the book was The Book, Il Libro. That was the title she gave the following work I will cite from, in which she writes as follows. Now remember, when Catherine of Siena writes, she writes in two ways. She expresses her interpretations of God the Father's revelation, and then she allows God the Father to speak himself. Jesus never communicated with Catherine of Siena. God the Father did. When I speak of communicating, I'm speaking of locutions, all right, and mystical revelations. God the Father was the one communicating with her. So the following passage taken from her book, entitled in Italian The Book, Il Libro, and in English The Dialogue, God the Father reveals as follows. The reverence you pay to priests, now this includes the Pope, okay, is not actually paid to them, but to me. This is God the Father speaking. In virtue of the blood Jesus shed, entrusted to their ministry. If this were not so, you should pay them as much reverence as to anyone else, and no more. It is this ministry of theirs that dictates that you should reverence them and come to them, not for what they are themselves, but for the power I have entrusted to them, if you would receive the sacraments of the Church. For this reason, no one has excuse to say, I am doing no harm, nor am I rebelling against Holy Church. I am simply acting against the sins of evil pastors. Such persons are deluded, blinded, as they are by their own selfishness. It is me they assault, just as it was me they reverenced. To me redounds every assault they make on my ministers. Derision, slander, disgrace, abuse. Whatever is done to them, I count as done to me. By not paying me reverence in the person of my minister, they have lost respect for me, and persecuted them because of the many sins and faults they saw in them. If in truth the reverence they had for them had been for my sake, they would not have cut it off on account of any sin in them, for no sin can lessen the power of this sacrament of holy orders, and therefore their reverence should not lessen either. When it does, it is against me they sin. I have told you of the dignity in which I have placed my priests, having elected them for my ministers, on account of which dignity and authority I do not wish them to be punished by the hand of seculars on account of any personal defect. for those who punish them offend me miserably. Now that's one excerpt of God the Father to Catherine. Now earlier I said Jesus never reveals himself to her, but only God the Father. Now that's generally correct, but there are excerpts where the Trinity speaks to her, which includes the Father, the Son, and the Spirit. All right, and this is one such excerpt taken from the same book. And by the way, these references are from chapters 115, 116, and 20. These three chapters contain the following excerpts I'm sharing with you of how God wishes us to approach church authority. All right? So here he tells her, or the Trinity tells her, as the Christ on earth has chosen them for his helpers, the right of correcting their defects belongs to him alone, and so I wish it to be. For I have withdrawn them from service and subjection to temporal masters on account of the excellence and authority which I have given them. Civil law has got nothing to do with their punishment. That right is placed in him, capital H, meaning God, whose office is to govern under the divine law. For these are my anointed ones. And inasmuch as I have said in the Scripture, do not touch my Christs, no greater ruin can come upon man than to constitute himself their punisher. Now this is God the Father speaking to Catherine of Siena, God the Son, the Trinity, if you will. And this reverence that God the Father insisted upon when speaking to Catherine of Siena toward his ministers, his priests, including the Pope, is something that we should be mindful of.
Well then, that will be all for the video this time. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us. And hopefully all of you have learned so much from this video. And remember, if ever you have any feedback or suggestion, please let us know in the comments below. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for your continuous support, contributions, and prayers. And until the next one, thanks again for watching, and may God bless you.
I encourage you to pray for one another, to seek harmony with one another and with the Holy Father. He is the validly, canonically elected vicar of Christ. Stay close to him. Don't let anyone lead you away from him. Those who do so are deceiving you. Be obedient to the vicar of Christ. Be obedient to the Blessed Virgin Mary. Be obedient to the magisterial and traditional teachings of the Church, and be obedient to your conscience. All right?